We have quorum. So seeing quorum, this meeting is officially called to order. This is a regular meeting of the Community Redevelopment and Housing Commission. Today is October 24th, 2018. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Recording Secretary, may you please take roll call?
Thank you. Commissioner Cano? Here. Commissioner Garcia?
Present.
Commissioner Ramos?
Present.
Commissioner Santana?
Present.
Commissioner Ursua?
Present.
Commissioner Wood?
Here.
Commissioner Frazier?
Present.
Commissioner Vasquez?
Here.
Thank you. You have phone.
Thank you. This is time for the Commission to consider matters under consent calendar. Items include 1 through 4. Do any members have any corrections to the minutes? Or are there any items that you wish to pull for separate discussion?
Is it possible to pull out the reports and just hear them out loud and maybe talk about them as well?
Yes. So can we pull items 3 and 4? Or do we need to make a motion to pull those?
Yeah, you could just pull the items for discussion.
Okay.
Of course. Yeah.
Does anyone have any corrections for the minutes? Anybody on this side? No? Okay. Great. Do I have a motion to consider items 1 and 2?
I make a motion to consider items 1 and 2.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? So the matter is approved by a vote of 8-0. So can we now start with item number 3? So that's the quarterly report for Housing Division projects and activities, July 2018 through September 2018.
Thank you, Chairwoman Ramos. This is our quarterly report for our Housing Division. It's a comprehensive report that we provide on a quarterly basis as a receive and file to City Council with the recommendation from the Commission.
Thank you. Is there a staff report, or do you want to highlight any parts of that report?
There were some things I was going to highlight in our staff member comments, but I'll highlight them now. First I want to mention in regards to Tiny Tim Plaza, which is on page 3.5. We stated in the staff report that they're currently pursuing other sources of financing to fill an estimated financial gap of approximately $11.7 million. As you're aware, affordable housing projects take a long time because it's so difficult to piece together all the sources of financing to make them possible. And Community Development Partners had submitted 2 9% low-income housing tax credit applications for this project, following the city's commitment of funds that we provided in June 2017 of $6 million. Well, we're happy to report that today I received a call from the developer that they were awarded 9% tax credits. They have been placed on a waiting list for the second round of 9% tax credits, and they did receive confirmation that they were awarded those tax credits today. And with that, assuming that there's no other substantial deviations from their estimates for their development costs, they should be able to close on their financing within the next 6 months. So exciting news on Tiny Tim Plaza. And then on Aqua Housing, I do want to point out that although this didn't happen during the quarter, we did want to report that Community Development Partners was allocated non-competitive 4% low-income housing tax credits on October 17th following their application, and they do expect to close on their financing before the end of the calendar year as well. The They have also begun reviewing their construction drawings and design with our planning department, and we're optimistic that they'll be breaking ground on the project next year. Really, since piecing together all the financing for these projects is so difficult and time-consuming, and relying upon the allocation and awards of tax credits, this is exciting news for our community to see these projects being awarded these 4% tax credits, being awarded the 9% tax credits, and able to close on their financing and finally break ground. Lastly, on the Santana Veterans Village project, I've mentioned it a couple times, but I do just want to reiterate that they do anticipate to close on their financing before the end of the calendar year and break ground early next year. As soon as I have a date for when their groundbreaking celebration will be, I'll make sure to send that to the commission. Lastly, in terms of our RFP for affordable housing that we issued on July 2nd, which is on the next page, page 36, as we mentioned in the staff report, the city received 13 proposals in response to this RFP, a very, very big response, and a very positive response too, considering how much funding we made available as well as the land assets that we made available. This is important for all of us because this is our effort to provide new affordable housing opportunities and commit additional funds that we have in addition to the existing projects where we already have financial commitments. And I just want to report that the interviews of all the developers are scheduled for October 30th, next Tuesday, and it's a full day of interviews by our review panel, consisting of myself, our homeless services manager, Hafsa Keika, our executive director of planning and building, our executive director of public works, and of course our executive director, Mr. Stephen Mendoza. So we're really optimistic about that review process, and looking forward to those interviews next Tuesday. With that, I don't have any additional highlights from our quarterly report.
Thank you, Judson. Are there any commissioner questions or comments? Commissioner Russo?
I have two questions. Thank you for the overview. On the First Street Apartments, in their update, it says that the developer declined the 8 project-based vouchers. Can you say more to that, and maybe what are the implications for the project as well?
Yes, we did report that the developer declined our 8 project-based vouchers for that project. And I do not have, the only insight that I have on why they declined the award is because they have sufficient funding to build their project. That's the only reason why they would decline that kind of award. The award itself is worth roughly $800,000, approximately $800,000 in private market financing for their project. And so they declined the award because they have sufficient financing to develop their project. In terms of the implications of that, we had in our forecasting for the utilization of our housing choice vouchers, we have to project our commitments where we've held regular tenant-based vouchers for a project-based commitment. And so they're declining these 8 project-based vouchers means that we no longer have to hold those 8 project-based vouchers for this project. Now, it doesn't mean that we can immediately turn around and make 8 project-based vouchers available for developers. That there's not a direct correlation. The estimates that we review constantly change based on fair market rents and our per unit cost and how much funding we're receiving from HUD. But nonetheless, those 8 project-based vouchers turn right back into tenant-based vouchers through just the regular forecast process. So. Great.
And in terms of the accessibility, since it is still affordable housing, it'll be affordable. Those units that aren't, those vouchers that aren't being used, it doesn't have implications for the affordability levels
No,
at all, right?
It does not have any implications on the project, except they're declining an award of funds.
To receive the funds.
And so the affordability levels remain the same.
Thank you. I have one more question, and this is regarding Exhibit 1. So these are the available funds as of September 30th. The available funds and that land assets available, but after the RFPs go through, is there any projection of knowing how many of those funds will remain in terms of a percentage? How many of those are anticipated to be taken up by the RFP?
Thank you, Commissioner. So it's a good question. I've received the same question 2 or 3 times from developers who are continuing to look for sites and are interested in submitting a proposal for our RFP. The next deadline for the RFP is November 15th. And so there are developers who are asking the same question. Are we going to have funds available still? And do we have land assets available still? The best answer that we've been able to provide is that our review panel is currently reviewing proposals. We're interviewing the developers on October 30th, and we hope to have a decision, a recommendation by the review panel on November 5th. Now, there's a lot of contingencies after the recommendation by our review panel. So, first and foremost is each proposal that's recommended for an award will be subject to an underwriting review by our consultants at Kaiser Marston Associates. And then second and most important is that the recommendation by the review panel is subject to approval by the commission and by city council. Until that a commitment of funds, a pre-loan commitment of funds, or I guess we're going to call it a land commitment. We'll come up with some creative bureaucratic term. Until that's done by City Council and by the Housing Authority, we won't know exactly how much in funding still remains, and the land assets that remained most accurately. We'll have projections and estimates, but we won't know very specifically.
And this is because then there's the rolling sort of RFP, I don't remember if it was quarterly available, but then that depends on how many funds we have as well. So
yeah.
We won't know. Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Well, I have a question. Last year we were discussing that probably we're going to have less funds this year. I do not remember how many funds we got last year, but I wanted to see if there was like a huge impact, or are we having like the same funds, or like how did it change from the last fiscal year to this one?
That's a great question. We, in terms of our housing successor agency funds, those funds are slowly depleting. While we received a repayment of a loan from our successor agency during this previous quarter, we don't anticipate very many additional repayments. Because following the dissolution of Redevelopment agencies in 2012. For our inclusionary housing funds, our most recent payment was from the Heritage Phase 2 of the Heritage and Phase 1 of the Heritage, but we also do not know of any upcoming in lieu fee payments that we're anticipating. For our home program, between the last fiscal year and this fiscal year, our home program funds increased by approximately $500,000. And for our CDBG program funds also increased by approximately $550,000. And our NSP program funds are also slowly depleting and being committed. And no new funds are being added. That's what I'm trying to say. No new funds are being added to our NSP program.
Okay. But when you say slowly depleting, like, does that mean like you have like an average percentage, like from last year to like the change that happened? That's what I'm.
We don't have that information readily available, but if you'd like us to provide that to you, we can.
Because I feel like there was like a huge concern from everybody that we were going to have less funds, and because of administration change and everything. So I just wanted to see how that like portrays in our portfolio, and it seems like we're doing well, so.
It didn't happen. So the federal budget that was approved had slight increases across the board for all of our programs,
That's great.
all of our federally funded programs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Clarifying.
Are there any other commissioner comments or concerns? Commissioner Witt?
Thank you, Chairwoman. I have a few questions on section 3 and 4, but I'll stick with section 3. On page 3.2, the first table, to me, these tables don't really mean a lot because there's no comparison to prior quarters. I know we have those prior quarters that were given to us 3 and 6 and 9 months ago, but we don't bring those with us. So a lot of this is just, doesn't really mean a lot. The one thing I noticed, though, with regards to single-family rehabilitation, out of 31 applications sent out, there were only 2 received and 1 approved. Is that, I don't know who does this report, but is that pretty common, that low of a closure rate, like 3%?
Yes, it's very common. In fact, if you were to look back on our quarterly reports that we've published over the last 3-year period, you would see the same kind of trend. There is a substantial, when we get a call or we get an email or we get somebody to come into the office and say, I'm interested in your single family rehab program, when we send them all the application materials, not very many applications, substantially less applications come back out. A very small percentage come back to our office for review. And then of those that come back to our review, an additional percentage actually are approved by the city.
Makes perfect sense. Then another question on page 3.3, really dealing with monitoring and audits. Under monitoring, it was noted that 38 owner occupancy recertification letters were mailed out and 19 were returned. I assume the other 19 have to be turned in to be counted as recertification, right? So is that a process the city goes to make sure those come back? And then in the same regards, under monitoring, there were 20 audits and 3 inspections, which is a sampling, but there's no indication here if there were any issues with those audits or inspections. Just, are we to assume that everything is always, perfect? There's no issues, or are issues not part of the package?
So in regards to the 38 owner occupancy certification letters that were mailed out and 19 were returned and processed, I'll have to get back to you with more information on the remaining, I think that's 19,
yeah, what's half?
That weren't returned and what action was taken. In regards to the inspections that we conducted for 3 units in one project, we did report that the grounds, common areas, and all of the inspected units were found to be in compliance at the time of the initial inspection.
Okay, you do have. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that further on. And then lastly, I always enjoy seeing the update on projects, the housing projects. On page 310 and 311, where you actually list out the project timelines, how does this relate to when we first saw this 6 months or a year ago? Is there any tracking on slippage or issues? Because again, all we're seeing is a snapshot of the latest timeline without any indication per project if there's been major slippage to these, right? Are these still on track with the original estimates with, for housing coming online? Or is there any major issue you can tell us about?
No, it's a good question. It's a good question. All the projects are well. Let's go into the specifics. So for the Santa Ana Arts Collective faced approximately a 6-month delay due to an issue regarding seismic retrofitting for the project, and we didn't report that here, but it did delay their anticipated construction completion date.
Well, and I don't want to I don't want to take all the commission's time to go through each of these. My only point was that if there was a major slippage on any of these projects, that maybe there would be an asterisk that would indicate that all of these were pushed back 6 months because of seismic retrofit issues or because of permit issues or funding issues, just so we have an idea of that activity. But we don't need to rehash all that right here because we have the current timetable.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We're constantly looking at how to improve this report and provide more transparent information to the public. And I think what we can do is when a change happens in terms of the anticipated construction completion date, we'll report that so that it's very transparent in terms of what occurred to delay the construction of the project.
That'd be perfect. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. Are there any other questions or concerns from commissioners?
Yes. Actually, most of my questions were asked about the update to the First Street apartment. But what I'm curious about is those 8 project-based vouchers. Did those go back into a pool to be reallocated to another project, or will those go back into the general pool of Section 8 HUD vouchers? And what is the make-ready time for those vouchers to be reutilized by prospective tenants?
So again, and that's what I was trying to. Thank you, Commissioner Frazier. That's what I was trying to provide the information on to Commissioner Sura earlier. The funds, the project-based vouchers, go back into the general pool of Section 8 vouchers, and so we had held these project-based vouchers as a commitment that impacted the number of tenant-based vouchers available in the future, far into the future too, in relation to the anticipated construction completion date, because that's when the families would actually lease up. But now that they've declined the award, we can remove that hold on those 8 tenant-based vouchers that were being converted into project-based vouchers. Now, in terms of those 8 Section 8 vouchers that were held in the future, 2 years from now, based on the anticipated construction completion date, that it doesn't mean that they become readily available now. What is readily available, we've actually called approximately 900 applicants off of our waiting list, Section 8 waiting list, over the past year, since January, and have issued over 150 vouchers so far with voucher holders who are searching. So really that commitment that we had in 2 years from now doesn't impact the activities that we're undertaking right now.
Okay. And I guess that opens up the question, if we've allocated 150 additional vouchers over the last year, where are we at as far as total vouchers out there allocated currently? Out of the 2,700, I believe? Our Housing Authority quarterly report, which is the next item that you'll be reviewing, also provides information in the number of families that we're currently assisting. And at the end of the reporting period, there were 2,563 households receiving rental assistance.
Thank you. Are there any other commissioner comments or concerns, questions? Okay, I have a few questions as well. So the first one is off page 3.2, so that table 1, specifically the mobile home rehabilitation program. So I remember learning a little bit about this program in my orientation to serve as a commissioner. And I think that part of that program, there's a loan forgiveness component. Is that correct? Or there was, maybe?
George, do you happen to know the answer to that question? Do you want to come up to the mic? Our residential construction specialist, George Garcia, may be able to answer that question better than I can.
Thank you. Is there a loan forgiveness component to the mobile home rehabilitation program that the city has?
Yes, it's a forgivable loan. A few years back, we increased that program from a $5,000 forgivable loan to a $12,000 to help assist the homeowners. So yes, it's a forgivable loan at the end of 5 years if they stay in a unit for 5 years.
Great, thank you. And I was wondering how we're doing outreach for that program.
George?
We do. We actually went out about 6 months ago, and we did some marketing for for the mobile home program. So we marketed out to, I believe, 14 to 16 mobile home parks. There's approximately 29 in the city of Santana. Out of that 29, 14 participated to go through in our program.
So is that marketing done through the property management, or is there a way that you are able to?
We sent out packages or flyers, bundles of flyers to the property management.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and we also have information online.
Okay, thank you. So I think based off what I had learned about that program, I think it's a great program. And just by visiting a few of these mobile home parks, I think that there are a lot of mobile home owners that could really benefit, but I don't think that everyone is aware.
The program is successful, so
Yeah.
We have a lot of applicants coming in these days.
Okay. So I know there were 2 inquiries, and then of those, it says there were 0 applications received, but there was 1 application approved. Is that an error on the table?
It could have been that the application was received during a previous quarter, and then it was approved during this quarter.
Okay, great. Thank you. I also have a question on the number of proposals that were received. So I see that there's 13 that passed the minimum threshold. Were there additional applications that didn't pass that minimum threshold?
No. All of the proposals that were received had deficiencies, so no proposal failed our minimum threshold review.
Okay.
We didn't decline any proposal because they had a deficiency.
Thank you. And then my last question is off page 38, so the available land assets. The first land asset 302 East 22nd Street, is that a new asset? I don't think I had seen that address before.
No, that has been on the list before.
Okay.
It's quite a unique site. It's a difficult to develop site. In fact, we did not receive any proposals for affordable housing development on this site, but it's been on the list since we began providing this exhibit.
Thank you. And my only other comment on page 308. So I know for every one of those assets, we can see who they were purchased from or how they were acquired. But do we have any information on when those purchases were made? I think that would be great information to add to this part of the report.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll research that information and try to add it.
Great, thank you. So with that, are there any last questions or comments from commissioners? No? Okay, do I have a motion to consider item 3?
I make a motion to consider item 3, the quarterly report for Housing Division projects and activities.
Second motion.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? So the matter is approved by a vote of 8-0. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to item number 4, quarterly report for Housing Choice Voucher Program, July 2018 to September 2018. Is there a staff report? Would you like to make any highlights?
The only thing that we'll have to add to the staff report is that I believe it was at the last commission meeting or the meeting before that where it was requested for us to add information on families who are end their participation in our program, and we did add that paragraph on page 404.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner comments, questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Witt.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I just have 2 real quick questions, and I know we've covered the first one before, probably every time you give us this report. Many apologies. On page 401, where we list that the Santana Housing Authority accepted applications from July 1st through July 30th, just over 3 years ago. At the rate we're going through those applications, of the 5,000 accepted, it would take another 4 years to burn through those. That would be a list that's 7 years old. Is there plans for an updated application process to start this over, or do you have to first go through all the other 2,900 names that are left?
So we don't have a projection on when we anticipate exhausting the number of applications on our 2015 waiting list. Last time we opened up the waiting list, I believe it was 2007, right? So we had opened
Okay.
up the waiting list back in 2007, and then we, do you know how many applications we accepted during that?
Close to 11,000.
Okay.
11,000. And so going through those 11,000 applications and issuing vouchers and leasing up families, it took us another 8 years
Right.
to get to 2015 before we were able to open up the waiting list again.
Right, so 7 years is really not out of the question. That's pretty typical.
Right.
And then on page 4.3, this is all very good information and very easy to digest. My question, though, is on the HQS inspections. Showing how many we do each month is really part of what we have to do anyway, but my question is, of the 370 inspections conducted and re-inspections, we don't know how many had issues or failures, or or if there's even a problem that we should be aware of, because it's not listed here. So I would ask if there were any, or if it's just really it's such a non-issue, that's why it's not listed. That's my question.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. We can research how much work it would take to add in the failed inspection data.
Well, I mean, it must be something the city knows, how many you have. Out of 370, if 10 fail, that's a pretty minimal number that have to be re-inspected. But if it's 50 or 60, then to me that would be indicative of an issue that we should be questioning. But we don't know because it's not in here. So if we could have that next time.
Sure. Yeah, we could try and add in the number of failed inspections that were conducted of those 370.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no further questions or comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. Commissioner Ursula?
I just have a quick question on page 4.3 for income as percent of median. I agree that this is very helpful information to have. I see that a lot, that the larger percentage comes from families earning below 30% AMI. Is that just how, like because that's what the applicants earn, or is there a goal that we have from the Housing Authority to outreach to particular AMI levels?
Thank you, Commissioner Ursula. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, not many people realize this, but it serves the lowest income families in our community, very low income families at 30% AMI, and a small percentage of families at 50% AMI, between 30 and 50% AMI. And so most all of our families on the program earn less than 30% AMI, and there's no, we don't have any goals established or anything like that. We do have instead a voluntary program called the Housing Plus program, which its official name is called the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, but we call it Housing Plus. And that voluntary program, through that voluntary program, we work very hard to increase the earned income for our participants in our Housing Choice Voucher Program to become independent off of our assistance. But unless they're in that Housing Plus program, then we don't have any ability to provide them with skills, training, and tools to increase their earned income.
Thank you. And then a follow-up to that, do you have information on how many families are in the Housing Plus program?
Yes. As of the last report I saw, the number of participants we have in the Housing Plus program was 129.
Thank you. And do all of the participants get informed of the opportunity? What do you think are the barriers for participation?
So we actually have several strategies that we utilize to try and reach out to our Housing Choice Voucher participants and inform them of the Housing Plus program. So first and foremost, we send out a monthly newsletter, which all of our commissioners receive, which the goal of that newsletter is to inspire them by reading stories of success of other participants in the program to want to join, and then provide them with information on who to contact and how to join the program. For several months, we had been sending out a physical monthly postcard, which was approximately a $500 expense to our Housing Authority to our non-elderly, non-disabled participants to inform them of the Housing Plus program. And we recently stopped that because it wasn't bringing in very many new participants to the program. The third major initiative that we have to increase participation in the Housing Plus program is something we call a warm handoff. So every family that comes in for their annual reexamination or a move appointment or an interim reexamination appointment, any appointment whatsoever, we ask our staff to, at the end of the appointment, to walk them over to our workforce development specialist to sign them up on the spot and register them for our Housing Plus program and tell them about it instead of trying to get them to come back into the office again. The fourth effort we have is brochures that we make available on everybody's desk in Spanish and English, and we are looking into how we can translate that into Vietnamese. And we also make the information available through our inspections. Every inspection that we conduct, we leave a brochure or a flyer on the program. And not to mention, too, we provide the information through our annual reexamination packets that we mail out to our participants. So we try and reach the family by email, mail, in person when they come to the office, through a brochure, through a physical handoff, and at their assisted unit directly, in every way possible to encourage and inform the family about this voluntary opportunity to join our Housing Plus program.
Thank you for that information.
Thank you, Commissioner Ursula. Are there any other commissioner comments or questions?
I do have a question, sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner Gunn.
So we've had different development programs come through, and I just wanted to kind of get an idea how they're dispersed throughout the city. Are they concentrated at the center, or where are they being located? The majority of the time. For this one, they kind of sound central, like Lacey, Santana. But I just wanted to get you generally what you see in the picture
Of our affordable housing projects. So we do have a map that we make available on our website of all of our affordable housing projects that have been developed. We can send you a link to that map so you could look at the locations of our projects.
Thank you.
Are there any other commissioner comments or questions? Okay, so I have a few. First, thank you for the report. I think it's become a lot more detailed, and it's very helpful. So I have a question on the end of participation paragraph. So it states that there were 29 end of participations that were processed during this reporting period, and data is not readily available. Will that data be readily available at any point? Or can that data start being included in these reports so that we can, I think it's really important that we have a picture of why people are no longer participating in the program.
So it's a great request, and thank you very much, Commissioner Ramos, for that request. We can provide that data to you on a one-time basis, but in terms of providing it to the Commission on an ongoing basis, our funding for our program, our administrative funding, has been decreasing substantially over these past couple years, while our staffing costs have been increasing. And in fact, we have not been able to have the funding available to rehire an operations supervisor position because of that lack of administrative funding for the program. So in terms of providing that information to you on an ongoing basis, we do not have the capacity to provide that to you on an ongoing basis, but if you'd like, we could provide that to you on a one-time basis.
Okay, that's helpful.
For this period, you want to know about the 29?
Yeah, if you have that data, that would be great. And then I'm also wondering if we know how many people that got off that waiting list. Were they all successful and able to find housing with that voucher? Or were there any households that received the voucher but were unable to find housing, so never truly started participation but sort of ended it?
Are you talking about the 150 that Judson talked about being
Yeah.
out looking? So we project statistically that only 35% of those 150 vouchers will actually find a unit where we can start helping them. And that's the reason why we have 150 out vouchers looking, because we use a 2-year tool from HUD. I think Judson has talked about that. And in that tool, we have everything in there as far as the success rate and our funding available. And so we need to plug in the numbers that we feel are going to work with our funding. And having 150 vouchers out there, we know not all of them are going to find housing. same barriers, the vacancy rate. Sometimes, their credit is not good, or, different, they just, for some reason, they can't find the unit. So we do not anticipate all 150 vouchers finding a unit.
So can we start providing those numbers in this report so we can see how the success rate varies from quarter to quarter?
So you would like to see maybe expired vouchers? I can add expired vouchers. So within the period of July through September, we had this many expired vouchers. I could do that.
Yeah, that would be helpful. But maybe even then, so if in a quarter there were 15 vouchers made available to specific households, I think it would be great to know of those 15, how many households were actually able to then use that voucher because they did find.
The only way, how we track it is, and it's reported to HUD, is how many active vouchers we have searching, and for that month, and we could do the expired vouchers for the month. I think it would be kind of difficult to track down in the sense that you're explaining it to me, because we can issue 30 vouchers this month, and we can have expired vouchers from 2 months or even up to 4 months back because they're able to get extensions.
So how much time do they have to find housing with the voucher?
Initially, they have 60 days, and then they can request 2 30-day extensions. So 120 days, 4 months total.
Okay. So I think even, so thank you for telling me what you can and what you might not be able to provide. But even information on how many households have requested extensions will help us understand maybe how difficult it is for them to find some. So I would like to understand that part a little more, and I think it being in the report could be very helpful.
The request for extensions, that again, our staff wouldn't have the capacity to provide you with that information on an ongoing basis.
Okay.
We don't. That would be an additional workload upon our housing specialist that we would need to request that information.
Yes, we don't track that. We only track it on active vouchers, and if they are on an extension, I could possibly add the active voucher searching, and then whatever's available. It may not be accurate. To give you an accurate number, it's going to take a lot of work because there's so many people involved. And that list, I'm not the one that manages the list only. There's other people that go in that list and add and remove names to it.
So any additional information
Sure.
that the staff does have the capacity to provide would be great. And then I have one more question. Is there so I know that there's a recertification process where the city and the housing authority is able to check in with tenants and see and ensure that they still qualify for these vouchers. But is there another way, or is it through that process that tenants might be able to report any discrimination or harassment that they're experiencing in their household, and whether it be a result of the Section 8 voucher or just harassment or discrimination that they're experiencing? How can they report that?
So we do refer them to the Fair Housing Council when we don't get involved in disputes between landlords and tenants.
Okay.
We automatically refer them out to the Fair Housing Council.
And when a tenant's sitting in our lobby, they see the information on how to report discrimination up on our wall in both Spanish, English, and Vietnamese.
Yes.
And it's also the information on how to report discrimination is in their briefing packet that they receive for their annual reexamination as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other last-minute questions or comments from?
I had a comment. For these things, do we have an intern that helps these particular commission that could possibly aid you guys so we don't add more costs when we ask for certain requests?
So we've looked into trying to get interns in the past, and we haven't had very much success.
Because I believe that UCI, the economics students, will love to have the opportunity to just be part of this commission. I think that would be great too. Then they have a portal where everybody just can submit applications. So I would love to start a program like that we could use a lot of resources like that, right?
Yeah. If you know of any interns, you can send them to our office.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Without any further comments, is there a motion to consider item 4?
I move to consider item 4.
Can you read the recommendation?
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Sue.
Yes, I recommend that the Housing Authority receive and file the quarterly report for the Housing Choice Voucher Program for the period of July 2018 to September 2018.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So the matter is approved by a vote of 8-0. The next order of business is consideration of the regular business items. The first item on the business calendar is item number 5, verbal update from Homeless Services Manager.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Hafsa Keika, and I'm the Homeless Service Manager. So last time I presented, it was the quarterly report. I like to kind of give you all this verbal report because the Housing Division and the Homeless Division, we work very cohesively together. As you know, homelessness has so much to do with housing. So you don't really see that often, so it's really great to be able to give you guys an amazing update for all the wonderful things that Homeless Division has been doing here within the city in partnership with the interdepartmental teams. So first of all, July, August, September is what I'm talking about. So if I had to sum it up, and I'm going to be as quick as possible, not to take too much time, but if I had to sum up this past quarterly report, we did a lot of legislative work in Homeless Division. Obviously, a lot of litigation has been involved in the field of homelessness in Orange County, and then also delivery of services. So let me just start with July. July was really amazing. We had the opportunity to attend the National Alliance to End Homelessness Conference in DC, where we were able to lobby around funding for homeless services, essentially. We were able to meet with Senator Kamala Harris's office, Congressman Lou Correa's, Maxine Waters, even though that's LA County. We were really able to make a stance around Santa Ana and all the wonderful work that we're doing. So that was great. We were also able to ask for and participate in the State Captain Day, or the Capitol Hill Day, which is significantly asked for more vouchers and more funding to be able to help for homeless delivery across the nation. One of the other things that we did was we submitted to the grand jury report around July and August. So Orange County received a grand jury report on homelessness. Where there's a will, there's a way. I believe that is what it was titled. And so we were tasked to respond to several different recommendations and findings, and we successfully did that to ensure that the county knew and the other cities knew all of the work that we're doing in terms of collaborating with nonprofits, United Way, residents, businesses, stakeholders, and to really be working cohesively on a solution for homelessness. So August and September, these past 2 months have been full of a lot of work. And it has been through the work with the city manager's office, the city attorney's office, the homeless division, the housing authority. It really takes a huge team. So the most recent, if you have been abreast of the city council recent actions, was September 4th, where city council did approve the memorandum of agreement to transition the Courtyard emergency shelter. So as you know, the last time I was up here, we were talking about the different issues of homelessness that residents and businesses and communities felt. So one of the greatest things was the Courtyard right here, which is a 475 bed shelter. This is the largest countywide shelter, and it's here in Santa Ana. So with the hard work of all of our interdepartmental, we were able to work with the county to successfully negotiate an agreement to transition that. So that was approved by council in September 4th, and it's going to take some time. But what the really great piece about it is that it's going to be be able to mitigate impact to our community. It's going to be able to stop the fact that there's unsheltered populations coming into Santa Ana. It really tasks other cities to be able to create a capacity to address homelessness within their communities. And as you know, my first time I was up here, I was talking about the federal judge, David O'Carter, who has tasked the cities and the county to create an infrastructure within their community so that Santa Ana does not become overburdened with the homeless population. We have been addressing the homeless population, but as everyone says, it's important that communities also task up and create the systems to address it. And that's also a best practice to ensure that people who are experiencing homelessness are still connected to the communities that they come from. So this is actually a really exciting thing. One of the things that we were able to do was utilize the Homeless Emergency Aid Program. This is one-time money that was published for the governor's May revision. It came out of Senate Bill 850, and it's about 500 block grant throughout the nation to be able to address homelessness. So we went after that. We are part of a big 11 city, so along with Long Beach, along with LA, along with Fresno, and other big cities, Santa Ana and Anaheim fell from Orange County to be a part of that. So we were allocated anywhere around $3.69 million. So it's really excited that we were able to dedicate this fund to the transition of the homeless emergency shelter from this Courtyard area into a more suitable location that is far from schools and businesses and residents. So that is really exciting, and we're looking forward to moving forward with that in the next couple of months. That is one. The second one is the approved agreement that we had with a provider named Mercy House, which is also one of our ESG recipients. And we have been able, well, council did approve that Mercy House will be able to operate an interim emergency homeless shelter. So while this transition of the emergency shelter is obviously significant and important to mitigate the impacts and also shelter people who are experiencing homelessness, it's really important that during that time, we still are able to find an infrastructure to help the individuals who are experiencing homelessness out on the streets, especially as the winter time is coming. So with that, this city went ahead and took on a huge task. We brought in all of our minds and all of our funds, potential funds, and we were able to go ahead and start, as of beginning of this month, the creation of the interim homeless emergency shelter. The provider is going to be Mercy House. This is going to be a 200-bed shelter. We do have a team called Operation Launchpad, which is divided into planning and design and also logistics. And the team have been meeting regularly to go ahead and start up this emergency shelter. It should be starting up anywhere between 30 to 45 days, and it's going to be slowly ramping up from 50 beds to 200. This is very, very exciting, and the dedication from all different departments in the city is very apparent. We have all the different directors in the room providing their strategic analysis. We were able to utilize our inclusionary housing fund as part of the staff report. If you go back to the September 18th council meeting, you'll see that those were some of the pool of money that we were able to dedicate, which is very exciting. However, council did also direct us to go ahead and see if we could replenish those funds. So currently, right now, what we're trying to do is see how we could leverage some of the ESG dollars from 17 and 18 to replenish that. So we have a plan in place, and we'll be taking it to council soon. What's really exciting is that this is going to be a facility that's not going to impact the community at large. There's going to be best practices, mental health, housing navigation, employment services, security. It's going to be 24 hours, and I'm working on a very robust referral system in order to safeguard the city of Santa Ana. We want to ensure that the individuals who are experiencing homelessness, also families, also youth, are adopted into this shelter, will be able to be coming from Santa Ana and not other cities. And the reason that is because it helps to create the impetus for other cities to step up as well. In actuality, last month, if you saw the OC register, part of our efforts in the litigation was the fact that Tustin will be opening a 50-bed shelter. So our work is making a difference. Our teamwork in the city is making a wonderful difference. And the other thing I wanted to say is that we did have the Urban Peace Institute that reached out to us actually as of last month, and on the community safety of how does homelessness play into community safety. So Urban Institute is a restorative justice agency, and they were really interested to see how the intersection between homelessness and community safety. So I had the opportunity to present with our Santa Ana, our chief of police, and also other wonderful organizations on how we could keep our community safe. While homelessness doesn't directly correlate into violence, oftentimes our community do feel threatened that individuals who perhaps have mental health or substance abuse can be a threat. So with that, we want to be able to inform the community that we are doing everything possible in collaborating with the county and collaborating with different agencies on mental health, substance abuse, ESG partnership to ensure that the people who are experiencing homelessness are getting the help they need, and then also that residents and communities are also getting the support that they need. So really excited, very big milestones with these 2 emergency shelter agreements, and yeah, that's my verbal report. Any questions I'll be happy to take.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to know the location again, and catch that for the new expansion.
I'm sorry.
What was that?
I'm sorry.
Do I have my question? Or?
I'm not at the discretion to disclose.
Oh, you're not at discretion?
No. Thank you.
Okay, and then, maybe go ahead. I lost my train of thought.
Commissioner Santana?
Oh, yes, no worries. Can you give us an update on a couple programs such as the Cold Team? Is that still
Yes, actually. So the Cold Team has been up and going. It's been doing really good. As early as this month, we had about 1,128 individuals that have been contacted. So just real quick, for some of you who may not know, the Cold Team is a quality of life team, and it's comprised of Public Works, Parks and Rec, SAPD, also Healthcare Agency, and it's a multidisciplinary team that is surrounded by best practice modality to go out to the different community when individuals, residents, businesses experience an encampment or a homeless person. And so the COLT team has done such a great job that they have been able to go out to these areas that need support and get people connected in conjunction with the county healthcare workers. So as of, I believe, early this month, it was 1,128 individuals that have been actually contacted overall since the inception of January 2018. So a lot of work has been done.
Follow up on the last question I made.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you couldn't disclose the location yet.
Mm-hmm.
For the last time when the Salvation Army expanded the shelter, they had community meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys planning to do the same to inform the community around that?
That's actually a really good question. I brought that up to our city manager's office actually prior to this. When we had the council meeting, we did have constituents that came up and expressed their concern. What we did say that we were going to ensure as a city that this would be an area that would be and it would be more suitable. So it would not be close to schools, it would not be close to residents. In terms of community forum, we haven't had that infrastructure just yet, but we have been having robust conversations with every single person that has any questions. So we have made ourselves available.
Yeah, it's just because I think I know which location, I'm not gonna say anything. But if there are businesses around that area, do they know that they're opening up the shelter? I mean, I'm just talking about surrounding that area and informing them, because even at charter school when they expand, I mean, the community demands, you want to make sure to know where you're going to be, how's traffic going to be.
Sure.
So I'm sure this community, businesses or whatever they are, want to know how this is going to impact.
Absolutely. Commissioner Cano, see, the thing about this particular that makes it very, very unique is a federal judge is involved, and this is within a federal case that all of this is happening. And so because of that, those decisions really have happened on a very high level. And so while best practices, and I understand, having community forums, in fact, we just had the Urban Peace Community Forum that we took part in, is always great. When it comes to specific cases such as this, I would say this is a very unique case, and it's something that's going to go down in history. So when it comes to certain decisions like that, it's made at the federal and our city attorney's office.
Do we have any documentation about that federal mandate that I can have a copy of, or
federal mandate?
Yeah, from this judge that you're discussing about.
So any of the hearings are open.
That's what I'm asking. Do we have any documentation of this federal mandate where You said it comes from above, not from the community. So I want to know.
No, it's not a federal mandate. What I'm saying is that essentially the community forums that you're talking about, while I understand that that's a good and best practice, some of those things have been inhibited in the discussions with the judge, and that's something that I don't have really a say in.
Okay. I just wanted to have documentation as to how this project got approved.
Yeah, with a lot of work with the judge has been on our side. The judge has made it very vocal, in the public hearings that Santa Ana has been overburdened, so he's really helping to push this, and our city attorney's office and city manager's office have been working with him in closed chambers trying to ensure that such a good project is up and going.
So we cannot know the judge's name at this
David
point?
David or Carter?
David Carter?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very good judge, has been really a spearhead, started in February, walked the riverbed, he is a champion, he is definitely a proponent for Santa Ana. In fact, he has been talking about why a marginalized community such as us, one of the biggest things is the parks and communities that he's been talking about, that other communities can go to different, places for vacation, but unfortunately, the community here may not be able to go to expensive places for vacation, so we need to be able to reclaim our parks and our community and establish an emergency shelter so that every resident has a right and a good quality of life.
That was my only question.
Wonderful.
Thank you. And moving forward, I'm just going to ask that all commissioners allow the commissioner speaking to finish asking their questions before we jump in.
Thank you.
Commissioner Santana.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The question was I know there's a lot of overlap services, or it's something that we're trying to work with the county as well as other cities, but as far as the HEART program and the PERT team, can you expand on those programs?
Yeah, absolutely. So the HEART program is also another best practice. And so we fund the HEART program through some of our ESG dollars. It's the Homeless Engagement Assessment Response Team, I believe. So many acronyms in the field of homelessness. But essentially, we have dedicated Santa Ana Police Department that are trained in motivational interviewing, trained in strength-based practices, trained in mental health and substance abuse and medical assessment of individuals, trauma-informed care, and they're going out and they're engaging. And actually, we were recognized by, Emilio Ramirez from Riverside, who oversees the coordinating council.
He's a commissioner on the Homeless Financing Coordinating Council for the state of California.
Thank you, Judson. So we were actually recognized by this very influential individual when he came to the Civic Center Plaza back in March and saw the encampment and saw how our SAPD, who are the HEART team, and how they have been able to interact with individuals experiencing homelessness. So the HEART team still continues. In fact, with this new emergency shelter, Commissioner Santana, the HEART team is going to be very pivotal in safeguarding the referral process. So individuals are going to have to go through, referrals are going to have to go through the HEART team.
Awesome. And then same with PERT as well?
So PERT is more of a county, it's the Psychiatric Evaluation Response Team, I believe. And so as any good city, we would be able to, in good faith, collaborate, right? And so one of the things is that the judge is very big about collaborating with the county on this. Essentially, when it comes down to it, there's always this big argument that who is really responsible for homeless delivery? Is it the county? Is it the cities? Well, the city of Santa Ana, we just actually came back from the Municipal Management Association of Southern California, where we presented to other cities, the deputy city manager Robert Cortez and deputy chief Gominski. We all presented, and we were very much appreciated by the audience of different cities that talked about how we took a stance to proactively address homelessness. And so with that, going back to the PERT team, essentially we're going to continue to collaborate with the healthcare agency, with the county, the system of care, to ensure that individuals who we help in our Santa Ana emergency shelter are going to get the services and permanency that they deserve.
And my last question, I know that the county is reimbursing the city for having officers take care of is it the Civic Center Plaza, or can you speak about that, or is that something
Yeah, I don't know. That's over me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's it.
Great. Any other questions?
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes. You mentioned that Mercy House was going to be providing interim services for homelessness. Is that going to be an expansion to the shelters that they currently have, or is that going to be implementing a new shelter?
Yeah, so you're talking about the Santa Ana Interim Homeless Emergency Shelter? Yeah, so Mercy House has their different shelters, right? So they're still servicing Bridges at Kramer, which is in Anaheim. It's in the North Spa. This is going to be this is a new contract that we have that was approved in September 18th, and so they're going to be servicing this as well. And just, I want to make it clear, this is an interim emergency shelter, so the agreement that it stated in the council meeting on the 18th, it does mention that, it's for 1 year and then a potential second year, right? But this is not permanent. The transition from the Courtyard, that one is going to be permanent, and we do have 125 beds that's dedicated to us, and that's why we're providing capital in that, so we could ensure that individuals in the city of Santa Ana have a safe place to stay.
Okay, so that'll be providing 200 interim beds for the period of 1 year, possibly 2 years.
Correct.
So that's a new contract that's going to be placed in a new facility. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do we know where that facility is going to be, since unless it opens itself up to, say, battered women?
Just as I mentioned to Commissioner Cano, I'm not at the discretion to express that.
So the interim is part of the same litigation, or part of the same court situation?
All of this is part of the litigation. All of this is part of it.
When do you think that information would be available for that?
Well, we we've been starting on this interim emergency shelter since the beginning of October, and the contract says anywhere between 30 to 45-ish days, so very soon, within the next couple of weeks, hopefully we'll be able to, show the community.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sure.
So recently, the Orange County supervisors, they met, and various city leaders from Santa Ana went to this meeting and mentioned, we do so much for the homeless. What are other cities doing? And I feel like they made it clear, I think, when are you going to take responsibility as well? And you said Tustin, but I feel like that's still not enough, and we're adding so much to Santa Ana. And I don't know, it just seems like a lot more than what city leaders went on to ask for the Orange County supervisor. I thought, from that meeting, they would take more responsibility, but...
Yeah, I think, I've worked in homeless services for several years. I worked in Skid Row. I worked for all of LA County, and I think one of the bravest things that this city has done is sued the rest of the city, back, I believe it was in March, as part of... to be able to get the other cities into the table. Hey, come on, we've been trying to, in the spirit of collaboration, say, let's work, let's create an infrastructure, but for a city like Santa Ana to be able to litigate the rest of the cities for the same reason, to be able to get the regional coordination happening, I think that's one of the bravest things we could have done. And, I think that you could talk and you could communicate and you could collaborate and you could be friendly, but I think that this was really exciting that the Tustin 50 bed came out of it. That's wonderful. And we hope to, again, this is more of the city attorney's office, but on my level, I think that it has created some difference, and I hope that it continues. Again, this is something in history where you have a federal judge involved, so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Commissioner Ursula?
Yeah, I want to say thank you for the update and all the information and your answers to our questions. I'm just reminded I was able to do the Lead the Way certification, and I'm reminded that there's plenty of training there around the supports we provide for homelessness services, and that's also part of our role to look out for the well-being of folks. And you're talking about there's families from Santana, there's youth from Santana that are part of those numbers being served, so I think it's a great thing, and I commend you for the work and the updates that you're giving us. I just wanted to check for understanding, if that's okay. So I'm hearing you're saying that the Courtyard Center is transitioning. Currently, it's housing 475 or servicing 400.
Around
475. 125 units of permanent housing will be made available to those. You're saying transitioning.
No. Okay, so
can you explain what the transition?
Yeah. Okay, so, and I would actually encourage, if you have an opportunity, to look at that staff report on September 4th and September 18th. So essentially, the Courtyard here, sometimes it's 425, sometimes it's 475. The county runs it, so I don't know on one given day how much, but I do know that it's full. We have a lack of emergency shelters in the county of Orange, right? So what we have done is, in this agreement that happened in September 4th, for the County of Orange to transition the Courtyard emergency shelter to a new location in Santa Ana, we were able to say it's going to actually end up being all of the folks here in the Courtyard plus an additional 125 beds, not permanent. I just want to make that, this is a permanent emergency shelter, but it's not permanent housing, right? Permanent housing is like permanent supportive housing or affordable housing. It's emergency permanent bed, right? And so that would be dedicated specifically for Santa Ana folks. And, you know, that becomes very important because unfortunately we have a county-wide emergency shelter here. And so we're not able to really, you know, safeguard for individuals experiencing homelessness in Santa Ana. So that's what that means.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any additional commissioner questions or comments?
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for everything that you've done this year. You know, hitting November, and every time you give a report at our meetings, you have amazing updates and you're making great strides with our city and with the community at large in Orange County. So, what's next? Like first quarter of 2019, what's the next big thing? You just read off some.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for that. And I really enjoy, you know, informing the commissioners because I think you all ask wonderful questions, and I believe that, you know, practice informs policy, policy informs practice. I think it's really a great, you know, substance to use. So I would say that we want to see how the emergency shelter is going, and I know my vision is connection to permanent housing. There is an answer to homelessness. It's like I say all the time when I go to different communities and I've been presenting, my 7-year-old niece says, there's an answer, homeless. You provide them a home, you know, and so that's the most exciting part of it. It's what kind of home. So I think I'm very blessed to be able to work with our housing division and, you know, the Orchard and the permanent supportive housing that's happening there because, as we know, individuals experiencing homelessness can have mental health, medical health. These issues are real. I've worked with people who have been, you know, when I was in my provider world, I worked with people who made lots of money but ended up, you know, for one reason or the other, medical issues or divorces or something, you know, anything that potentially destroyed and fell into depression. So there's all kinds of populations that experience homelessness. It's what kind of housing that you could connect them. So specifically for this shelter, I will be keeping a very strong eye on the connection of resources. How could we get them back into, you know, into the Orchard, or how could we just got awarded the 50 mainstream vouchers, and when last time I was here, I was telling you guys that in partnership we applied for the mainstream vouchers with HUD, with the partnership with the Illumination Foundation. So we got awarded 50 of those. So how could we connect those people into the shelter to some of those Section 8 vouchers so that they actually have a place to go for permanency? So the next thing, Commissioner Garcia, is to ensure that when people are getting connected into emergency shelter, that there is a safe, warm handoff into permanent housing so that they don't fall into recidivism.
Great, thank you.
Yeah?
Comments or questions from anyone else? Great. Okay, well, just thank you so much for the report, and thank you for seeing these homeless individuals as what they are, which is humans that just are in need of some additional assistance right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So now I'm going to give any members of the public the opportunity to speak on this item. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on the matter? Seeing as there are none, we will proceed. Do we have a motion to approve item 5, verbal update from homeless service manager?
Make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The matter is approved by a vote of 8-0. The second item on the business calendar is item number 6, Nonprofit Community Development Block Grant application for fiscal year 2019-2020. And I'm going to change the order on my script. It seems a little weird to have public comments after the staff report. So are there any members of the public that would like to speak on the matter? Seeing as there are none, we will proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So my name is David Flores, and I'm the Community Development Analyst for the city, managing the CDBG grant. So I developed a small presentation for you. It's only like 7 slides, so it'll go pretty brief. And this is for the grant year 2019-2020. Okay. So just to touch bases on what CDBG does, the purpose is to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing, a suitable living environment, and expanding economic opportunity, mainly to persons in areas of low to moderate income. Okay? We anticipate to receive an annual funding amount of $5.8 million, which is our current level of funding for CDBG for this year. So we anticipate to get that for next year as well. And out of that funding, we can obligate 15% to public service programs. That's the nonprofit component of the CDBG. That equates to like $872,000. So when the applicants submit their application, there are some requirements that they have to meet. The first one is they have to make sure that the applications and the program that they're submitting for is going to benefit low to moderate income persons or areas. That's really important. So that's the first thing that we look at. Second, it has to be aligned with the city's strategic plan goals and objectives. And it has to meet one of the, it has to have an emphasis on one of the three areas there. So one of the emphasis is crime prevention, intervention, and suppression efforts for children, youth, and families. It has to have an emphasis on economic development programs or have a summer night lights program. Our current funding that we are recommending is $30,000 minimum funding for a single grant and a maximum of $75,000. If there is some applicants that want to have a joint application, we could potentially fund them up to $150,000 for that joint application. We developed a timeline. It's also on the staff report for your review, and I'm briefly going to go over it. So starting January 2nd, the applications will be distributed. They will be out for the public, so we will do outreach efforts. February 4th, the applications will be due, so that gives them a 4-week period to develop the grant and submit it for review. So it's due February 4th by 5 p.m. Between February 5th and March 7th, the Community Redevelopment Housing Commission, and with the assistance of staff, we're going to review the applications. We're going to score the applications. And on Tuesday, February 26th and Thursday, February 28th, we will have a public hearing where, or we plan to have a public hearing where the nonprofit agencies will come in front of this body and they will present the program, and it will also give you an opportunity to ask them questions, especially if you, after reading the application, if you think you have an additional follow-up question, or if they left something out, if they gave you some doubt, that will be the perfect time to ask them for clarification or to elaborate on the purpose of the program or the application. March 27th, we anticipate to finalize the recommendations and recommend for City Council for consideration. And April 16th, we're going to have a City Council meeting, our public hearing for their approval on your recommendations. And that's pretty much it, really simple. And I think you guys have copies of the application as well. So do you guys have any questions for me?
Thank you. So I'll move on to Commissioner comments or questions. And I would just like to ask that no commissioners speak more than once until everybody that wishes to has had an opportunity to speak. Are there any comments or questions? Commissioner Wood?
I just have a couple of quick ones because I know we're running late here. You mentioned that the $5.8 million in total is about the same as last year, but the 872 is a little higher than last year, isn't it? I believe we were at 817.
No, it's
Yes.
actually, so these are estimates because
Understood.
we don't receive our final allocation from HUD until late in the fiscal year. And so, for example, last year we received our allocation from HUD in, let me see the date of the letter here, on May 1st. And so the commission last year was using an estimate from the previous year, and we did receive more funds, and so they increased. And if you remember, we reallocated those to the 2 equal scoring.
Right.
So that's what you're seeing.
So the starting number, though, is a little higher than what we thought we were starting with last year.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is a good place to be. I remember last year we funded 17, and if we did that again this year, it would be about 51,000 on average, which is about the same or higher. My only other comment was that the process is laid out very similar to what we did this year or last year, which expanded the participation of, or allowing people the opportunity to give a longer presentation and the commission to ask questions. There was a learning curve last year, but I think it went very well. So it's nice to see that process appears to be the city's desire to play out again this year. And I hope that most of us are there to participate. I know there's a lot of changes coming after the election, but it seemed to work very well. So thank you for your presentation.
And thank you, Commissioner Wood. We are trying to learn every year and improve the program every year and the process every year. And so this year we're actually going to be including our staff in the review process, so that we can try and ensure that, to stimulate that kind of deliberation and discussion that we're looking for, so that we can have a very, very thorough and good deliberate discussion among the commissioners and staff for the allocation of these limited funds.
Right. My only other comment was that I wish that where you break down the three areas that the money or the applicants need to address, is that there was a focus on the 2 Gs, gang participation and graffiti, because that to me is a huge problem for Santana, but that's something on the front end to work with the council and the mayor on to get that focus. But again, I think it's well laid out, and the staff participation should spur robust discussion.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. I'm going to ask Commissioner Vasquez if he has any comments. Commissioner Vasquez, do you have any comments? Thank you. Commissioner Rousseau?
Yes, I do. Thank you for your presentation. And my question is regarding the priority, the areas identified. Just to recap as to how those were identified and if those change every year and according to what.
So are you talking about the emphasis on the crime prevention? And yeah, I think this is a repeat from last year. This is connected with the city strategic plan and their goals and objectives. So we try to align everything together to be consistent, so we don't deviate and try to create something out of the whim, right? So we try to make that connection.
Thank you. I think there was more specification, especially around economic development on last year's application. So I'm wondering if that's something that could be reviewed.
The specification that we provided last year, it's included in that interpretation of economic development this year. We didn't see the need to be as specific as we were last year in terms of the I can't remember the exact text, but I know what you're referring to, and it is included in this year's interpretation of economic development.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Santana? No comments. Commissioner Garcia?
Quick question for Judson. So when you say that there's going to be more staff participation, what do you mean by that? Or do you mean like during a specific step, like when they do the presentations, or when we deliberate, or how does that look like?
So traditionally, over the past 3 years, only the commissioners have scored the applications. Mm-hmm. So this year, what we're seeking to do is include our staff in the scoring, and as well with a very deliberate purpose to try and stimulate discussion and deliberation among the commissioners. We had all the applicants provide their proposals to the commission last year, but we just didn't see that kind of deliberation that we were looking for, where we need the deliberate discussion in terms of, here's where I'm thinking of scoring, what are you thinking of scoring. We need to have that deliberation so that scoring isn't done independently, that the commission is making a decision as a collective whole on behalf of the community.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
No, I have nothing.
Thank you. Commissioner Gano?
Adding to the last question, I really like having like an expert, like what they think about certain programs and things. Would you guys be providing that before we read the applications, or will you guys do this with us, or how would that partnership be?
Thank you for that question. That's also a benefit of having staff involved in the scoring as well. That staff are going to be able to provide their expert opinion on the qualifications of the nonprofits who are applying, of their experience in the past, et cetera, to enhance the scoring process.
So my question was, will we have that before we read the applications, or will it be at the same time that we read? How will that work?
It will be during the deliberation.
During delivery?
Yeah.
And then next thing, for the last time we had nonprofits come, it was like I think during 3 p.m. or so. I think it was like an early time during the week, and it was like 3 days or 2 days during the week. I really want to participate this time. How can we go about it where most of us can get to meet like these organizations and really get to know what they're doing?
So last year we discussed at length the timing of the public hearings, and we had decided on 3 to 7 in order to accommodate working schedules for the nonprofits. So if the commission would like to change that schedule, we can be up to the commission. But we did make that adjustment last year as well.
I don't remember if it was like 3 days or 2 days.
It was 2 days, and it's the same structure that we're proposing this year.
And then would we be able to make that change later, or do we have to like recommend that now?
It's a good question.
During the week for an hour or two.
You can.
That would be really good.
If the commission wants to consider changing that date and time for the CRHC public hearings for CDBG funding recommendations held from 3 to 7 p.m., you would want to take that action now.
Okay. Otherwise, we can make that motion to change the timing so we have like.
Would you like to start a discussion amongst the commissioners
Yeah.
to see what times may work?
Yeah, because 3 to 7, I'm sure is exhausting for the commission and for you guys to sit here for 2 days. So maybe we can disperse it, go for 2 hours or so during the week. So I want to start that discussion with the commission and hear your thoughts, of course.
Can we get commissioner comments, especially from those that participated in that 3 to 7 time block, and what you thought of it? Who would like to start?
I'll start first. I was the chair during that. It was certainly a learning experience, but it rather than having 4 meetings that were 2 hours each, I think condensing it was not as stressful or time-consuming as you would think. I mean, the 4 hours did fly by pretty quickly, and the participation was 100%. Everybody presented. And we had pretty good representation from the commission as well. So I didn't see it as an obstacle to what we were trying to achieve by having 2 4-hour meetings. It may have caused some time constraints for those who work or whatever. But rather than it was difficult to get everyone to agree on those 2 days, and I would think it might be even more difficult to agree on 3 or 4 if we broke it into smaller time buckets. We also discussed last year doing it on Saturdays, but felt again that the public would be better served by having it from 3 to 7 on 2 days versus spreading it over 2 weeks. That was my input.
Thank you. Would any other commissioners like to comment?
Yeah, I echo Mr. Wood's comments because I think it's important that the presentations are presented well and we receive it, and it's not as exhausting as it is, but it was fun because at least we were all witnessing the same presentation together. So.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Commissioners Garcia, Frazier?
I do have a comment. I was hesitant because I participated in this selection process for a few years now, and when we changed it up earlier this year, I was hesitant because of the huge time chunk, and because of I have a regular job, so it's like I can't leave, for a certain. But the 2 days versus 4 days for 2 hours or 1 hour, I felt like 2 days in a row would be more effective. And it worked out really well. I'm thinking in terms of just staff resources and then the impact to the nonprofits. I thought just breaking out in 2-day chunks between 3 to 7 would be most, I think, beneficial for everybody involved. It's just not big picture. And the city really did a great job in executing this format. I think that's what I meant to say. So It worked really well. It went by fast. Just what my fellow commissioners said, and I think it worked really well for the nonprofits and helped their presentations and everything. They looked really comfortable in presenting in the style, the round table style that we had, versus having them present here or in the police community room. I thought, it was a really nice way to make them feel comfortable, and it was more personable. So,
Commissioner Frazier?
I echo my other fellow commissioners in that I think one of the only snags that we may have hit was some people running over and being there for X amount of hours and trying to get their presentations done. But outside of that, it didn't seem too taxing to be there for an extended period of time on those 2 days, listening to the proposals.
Thank you. And I would just like to add that I was one of the individuals that pushed for those big hour blocks, and I think it worked very well. And another reason why we did 3 to 7 was because at the time we had a student representative, so we wanted to make sure that they would be able to arrive immediately after school, and that we also wouldn't keep them too long. So we don't have a student representative right now, but I know staff has been working on that and contacting the high schools to ensure that we can get one very soon.
Well, we have the dates already set, so I'll definitely save them, and definitely want to be part of that roundtable.
Thank you. And then I'll just make some last comments, and I have some last questions. So I know we have 3 priorities right now, and is that at the council's discretion to add priorities, or is that the staff's?
It's a good question. It's an important question. We're recommending, our recommended action to you is to receive and file the application. If you have changes to the application, that could be recommended right now,
Okay.
and then recommended on to City Council for their final receive and file.
Great. So I do have a recommendation. But before that, I want to go a little bit back to this timeline. So I do remember last year at some point, we as commissioners did have a discussion on the need for, or the want for an additional meeting to have that deliberation. We just were very close to the timeline, and it wasn't going to work because we didn't request that until a week or 2 before it had to go to the City Council. So I know it was very difficult. And I think Commissioner Wood remembers this conversation a little bit. But is there room to add that? So I know that staff will not be participating by also ranking.
But I'd like to comment after you're done on that subject.
Yeah, so that was the first part. And then the only other thing that I remember we did last year that I don't see here is that we also were able to go visit a few of the nonprofits that had received their CDBG funds and were using their funds very well. So I would also like to recommend that we add that to the schedule of dates. So add a date to visit some of those sites. I think that was very helpful, and it provided some good context as we were reviewing additional applications. So that, and then I'd like to hear from former Chairman Wood on what he remembers from that discussion as well.
And thank you for allowing me just to jump in quickly, because something came up after I had my turn to speak. And that was, Judson, you mentioned that the staff are going to also participate in the grading, but what you haven't told us is how many, because there's 6 or 7 or 8 commissioners that typically do this work. Are you talking 1, 2, 5, 8? And why? Who's picking this number? Staff.
No more than 2. No more than our 2 community development analysts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they would be, good candidates to obviously participate because that's their position. My only other comment on what you brought up about last year was we did put it for a vote in a discussion with the commission about having an additional meeting, as Chairwoman Ramos brings up. And we brought that up and voted on it, and the commission voted it down. They did not feel there was A, enough time, or B, that it would be productive. I remember that debate very clearly, and I was pushing for it, but I lost that. And now it seems to me the city's arbitrarily putting that step in there, whereas the commission should probably talk about that and decide if that's something they agree with, in my opinion, to have that extra step. I felt it was a valuable input because you might have someone scoring someone at a 30, on a scale of 1 to 10 as a 3, and everybody else had it as a 7 or an 8, and just to have that one last chance to digest the process. But
Yeah.
it's, again, something that the city shouldn't just arbitrarily put in. We should, have a moment to decide if that's what we want to incorporate.
I think, well, I definitely agree, and I think this year, particularly with the recommendation from Chairwoman Ramos, we are going to add in that meeting for deliberation. We need more deliberation. We should have had it last year, because again, through all our efforts of 9 hours of sitting through interviews, everybody still scored independently and didn't deliberate collectively as a whole. And so we are going to we're going to add in an additional meeting for that deliberation process.
Okay, so that's...
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any additional commissioner comments or?
Yeah, I have a question. So to Commissioner Wood's point, staff is being added kind of at the discretion of, but not all of the commission is included to begin with in those scorings. Is there anything that can be done to include the remainders of the commission, the tenant representative, the senior tenant representative, and possibly the student representative in those scorings? I know that those are mostly housing-based decisions that we're allowed to discuss, but it seems like you're trying to create a conversation in a roundtable, and it would seem that the entire commission would be beneficial on that.
It goes back to the bylaws.
Yeah, it does. So our tenant commissioners are in place to serve and participate on the specific housing matters. The CDBG has a broader scope than that, unfortunately. So those are items I believe we had this discussion last time around, and we determined that it would be beneficial for you to participate, but that you wouldn't be able to be involved in this scoring. I believe it is what the final determination was for that.
Okay, so I guess what I'm confused about we did have this conversation, but I think it was to a different degree. What I'm confused about is then how does the bylaws address adding staff to the decision-making process for those CDBG funds?
That's not addressed in the bylaws.
Okay.
No, that's at our discretion.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Santana?
Sure. And what about if there's vacancies or vacant positions? I mean, would that outweigh city staff? Would that outweigh the racial ratings? I know we have we have a vacant spot now.
For our community development analyst position,
No,
or no, for our commission?
For commission, yeah.
So Ward 3 is vacant.
Ward 3 is vacant, and let's say something, someone.
So if there's a vacancy,
who knows, right?
It just most important is that there's a quorum of the commission in compliance with the bylaws. So if we didn't have a quorum,
it's not the quorum. I'm talking about our rating. So if we do get 2 cities that we have one open, then that obviously that rating would weigh more if the city were to feel differently.
Walk me through it one more time. I'm sorry.
So I think it's more of a ratio question.
Can I clarify? I didn't understand that the staff would have voting, or that the staff would also
be ranking.
They will be ranking?
Yes.
I understood it would be just for the deliberation of it.
So are you guys recommending, or actually we're waging your scores with our scores and making an average?
Yes, yeah, it'd be including the staff scores in the average. Yeah.
Could we do separate staff recommendations?
Okay, and that's what it's. Yeah, okay. Sounds like
Or I'd like to hear what
there's
the commissioners think on that.
generally is the commissioners not interested in having staff score the applications.
I think my concern is that the city has made two changes without involving the commission in the discussion. That you've arbitrated that you're going to include 2 members. We didn't know that. And also that you're going to add an additional meeting that last year the commission voted down. Again, I supported it, but I think that's something that the commission, that's our position is to give that input, or at least sign off on that. So that's probably why you're hearing some pushback, at least from myself. I can't speak for the others.
Okay. Yeah, if the commission does not want staff to participate in the scoring, that's okay, and we can remove ourselves from the scoring. But the commission again needs to deliberate the applications this year, and that I'm making that clear now.
Can you give us any, without being specific, names or anything? Can you give some basis for that? I mean, there must have been some huge diversity in the scoring that you were concerned about. So can you share some of that, or something just basic?
I don't have the specifics. We could show you in the specifics, but there were substantial deviations in the individual scoring process that would cause for concern.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know Commissioner Garcia has some comments.
Yes, so there's a lot of just little subtle changes that might happen. One thing I do want to ensure is that we do have staff's input on the nonprofits in terms of your past experience with them, so
Complaints.
we know, and we don't, we want to know, are they good with administering or managing their funds in the past? What has been the outcome and things like that? That would be helpful for us. That way we take that into consideration.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to say.
No, thank you. Yeah, that sounds good.
So I would like to recommend that staff produce their own rankings and that we as a commission deliberate with staff to understand where we all stand. That's my individual recommendation, but do others have any alternate recommendations on how we work with the staff involvement?
So your suggestion is to hybrid the two, if you will, by having the staff two members do their scoring as well,
Yeah.
but then to take that into the open session with the commissioners and those staff members to collaborate and look at the scoring.
Yes,
to
and I think-
finalize and adjust as necessary.
And I think that addresses Commissioner Santana's concerns over what ratios might look like depending on how full our commission is or isn't at that time. Does everyone understand that? Do people like it? If you don't like it, no offense taken.
I like it. I personally think that, like I said, I like having the experts' advice. So if I could read what your experience has been with these organizations, because for me, when I read the application, it sounded amazing. But I went to one of the lights programs, and the lights weren't even working. So things like that, I mean, you guys see it. You guys have been there for many years. And so I would like to know what your experience was. But at the same time, we want to make sure that the council members know, like, oh, this is their experience with the committee, and this is the experts' experience from years as well. And I mean, that's how I think that's a good recommendation.
Yeah. Commissioner Ursula?
I don't mind either way. The participation of staff. I think that this seems to me like the opportunity to speak amongst ourselves and weigh in on how we feel about the participation of staff. I just have a couple comments. I think I'm in support of the deliberation. I wasn't part of it last time, but I think it seems like a good opportunity to have consensus or at least be able to hear more information from where others are landing on it, and then I understand Commissioner Santana's concern around if there isn't too much participation from the commission, then it could be more staff driven than commissioner driven. So I think I'm in support, and I think this is the opportunity. The time is now to figure this out together.
Thank you.
I think generally we understand the direction from the commission. So one, staff won't be involved in the scoring, but will potentially rank and score the application separately if we feel it necessary and useful. And then two, we are going to add in another meeting for the commission to deliberate their scoring, and we'll likely try and make it a closed session meeting so that the commission can speak more freely without it being a public setting.
Great. And then the only other change that I would like to recommend is that we add a priority, so that we add a priority number 4. And that be for tenant programs, services, and assistance. And I would just Just to speak on that, I think we are in a housing crisis. I think we all know that as commissioners of the Community Redevelopment and Housing Commission. And I think that it's very important that nonprofits begin to think creatively about how they can help address that with whatever services and assistance and programs they can provide. So I think adding that as a priority could help nonprofits, could push nonprofits to start thinking creatively. And having that as a priority doesn't force us to allocate money to them. We still are able to rank them.
Sure. So if I may speak to that, according to CDBG regulations, they have to meet one of the national objectives, and the activity has to be eligible. That would not be an eligible activity for CDBG, and I think it would be a duplication of services because we already have a housing authority that provides that service. So us providing that service, first, it's not eligible. Second, it may be a duplication of service. So I don't think that's something that we can do for CDBG.
So there are nonprofits that do provide these services that we funded last year. So a few of those were the Fair Housing Council of Orange County, the Public Law Center, and there were at least one or two other nonprofits that applied that could have fit under this category.
Sure. So they provide legal assistance. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. So this would be very broad. So I'm trying to frame it and I'm trying to use words that would be very broad and would be up to interpretation of the commissioners and the nonprofits. So what I'm recommending is tenant services, assistance, and programs. So a nonprofit could apply with anything that they feel could benefit tenants, and that could be defined in many ways. So that's what I'm pitching right now. I don't know if does that make sense to everyone, or does anybody? So I think the economic development had a very specific definition, and I think this falls a little bit outside of that.
Could you make that as an amendment so that it's more official, so that we ensure, because that is quite a substantial change to the application itself.
So I would like to propose that as an amendment, but before that, I would like to hear from commissioners, just to get a sense of where you all stand, and if it's not well received, then we don't have to.
If I could jump in quick first, then,
Commissioner Wood.
you're proposing a fourth
Priority.
Priority.
Yes.
And that would be.
So tenant services,
tenant services,
assistance, and programs, and I'm open to changing that wording.
Right. I guess my question is, because there were last year and all prior years, there's been applicants that do tenant advocacy issues. Public Law Center, there were two law centers, I think, and others that dealt with things closely related to that. So how did that happen if that language wasn't there? Is it because they fall under economic development, or, I mean, that's not crime prevention, it's specific to tenant advocacy?
Last year?
Yeah.
It's a good question. We're the priorities are set in the application, but staff generally last year, if I remember right, I don't think we denied any application that didn't meet the priority areas. We try and ensure that the commission can review the application. If the commission feels that the application should be denied or shouldn't be scored, then absolutely. But staff don't. We try and not make that decision for the commission.
Right, and in scoring those applicants, I can speak for myself. I might have looked at certain applicants and said, well, they don't meet any of this, so for that specific question or two questions that related to that, they would have had a 0 or a 1 because they didn't fall into that. Whereas I believe Chairwoman Ramos is looking to expand a fourth definition that adds that as an area that they would not be disqualified with a low vote. Is that something that we can consider?
I believe that's what the proposed amendment is to the action.
My understanding is clear then, and I would probably support that.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. Are there any commissioner concerns before I propose that amendment?
Just a comment.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I just want to comment. I'm also in support. I just want a clarification. So it would be permissible to add that language, and if so, I also want to express support. I think we've heard that it's a major need, that it's already an interest on behalf of the community. So think I've even heard in council comments that there might be some council support for it, or proposals of it. So I just want to state my support.
Thank you. Okay, seeing as there are no concerns, would I have to move to make that amendment?
You can make a motion to approve the action with the friendly amendment.
So I can make that motion. So I would like to entertain a motion to approve nonprofit community development block grant application for fiscal year 2019-2020 with an amendment to add a fourth priority listed as tenant services, assistance, tenant services, comma, assistance, comma, programs. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Are there, okay, thank you, Commissioner Wood. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Okay, thank you. That matter is approved with a vote of 7-1, with Commissioner Cano voting no.
And Chairwoman Ramos, if I may just add two things. When I stated that the additional meeting would likely be a closed session meeting, Ryan advised me that that wouldn't be possible, so it'll still be added to the schedule. And then in terms of scheduling, I forgot to add that we will schedule the site visits for our CDBG funded organizations. That won't be a part of this staff report. That will be just done by staff, similar to what we did last year for the site visits to I think we visited 3 organizations.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia, do you have a question?
I just have a miscellaneous comment and request for the public hearing. If we could get some guidelines for commissioner behavior with regards to the comments we can make and can't make to the presenters. I know in the past we've conducted these hearings in very formal settings like the chamber here or in the police community room. But this year with that roundtable format that we're gonna continue on with, I think it allows for a more intimate setting and more chatter and opportunity for participation. But I noticed that a lot, and that including myself, we kind of jumped in and made some comments about that might display bias towards certain nonprofits, and I think we kind of need to remember that we need to be neutral and not make comments like that. So, and I know there's some guidelines around that, so if you could just provide those as a refresher to all of us.
Of course. Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Now the third item on our business calendar is item number 7, Downtown Santa Ana Business Improvement District 2019 Assessment Report and Budget. So before staff provides that report, are there any members of the public that would like to speak on the matter? No? Okay, seeing as there are none, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. How are you? Thank you for being here. I know this meeting is running a little bit longer than usual, but I thank you for your patience and for your discussions. Today, the item before you is the Downtown Santa Ana Business Improvement District Assessment Report and Budget. This is a yearly item that comes to the Commission for review. To give a little bit of a background on what this is, the bid was established in 1984 for the downtown as a means of providing funding for the downtown business community to be able to promote events, create promotional material, increase security, enhance maintenance of shopping corridors, and potentially some streetscaping improvements. The bid is funded through revenues collected as a tax from the businesses within the bid district. So essentially, businesses came together and said, we want to create these boundaries. We're going to assess ourselves an additional tax, which is then collected through the city's business licensing process. The city then serves as an intermediary for these funds or as a pass-through. So we collect the additional tax from the bid businesses, and the bid administers them through 2 organizations, the Santa Ana Business Council and Downtown Inc. The item before you is to review the report for the upcoming year and the budgets for the upcoming year. It includes budgets and it also includes the assessment boundaries. The assessment boundaries are the original boundaries from 1984. In 2013, City Council had appointed the Community Redevelopment and Housing Commission as the bid advisory board, which gives you the opportunity to review this bid assessment report and approve it for council recommendation. With your recommendation, this item would then go to City Council with an intent to levy the business tax license in the area. It would go potentially November 20th with your recommendation, and if that moves forward, then there would be a public hearing so that the businesses within the bid boundaries could come and provide comment on the bid, whether they oppose it or they are okay with the additional tax that's being levied. Again, with your approval, we can submit this report to council and move forward with collecting the funds so that Santa Ana Business Council and Downtown Inc. can have approximately $100,000 each in the next calendar year to promote events or do other things to really enhance our downtown. With that, I'm going to introduce Claudia Arellanes, Raul Yanes, and Jose Romo that represent the downtown groups. They have a little presentation to share some of their accomplishments for the last calendar year, what they were able to do with the bid funds received.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having us, giving us the opportunity to show you the bid report for the last 12 months. We're going to show you on the presentation, we're going to show you what we have done for between Santa Ana Business Council and Downtown Inc. We're going to show you what we have done. We're going to show you events that were only possible by doing it with Downtown Inc. also. On the slideshow, we're going to show you activation of places through the downtown, places that they call them dead spaces. We're on the art walk. We are activating these spaces by having music, having art, having other activities, selling art crafts, and also bringing the schools. We're also going to show you that by activating these spaces, we are bringing the community to the downtown and bringing the families, the little kids, and everybody to enjoy on the art walk what we're doing through the downtown. Thank you for having us.
Hello, good evening. My name is Claudia Arellanes, and I am the Secretary for Santana Business Council. And I'm just going to echo what Mr. Yanez just told you. We had added the Children's Business Fair, which is coming every first Saturday of the month as well. And our slideshow talks for itself. And I just want to mention that our two consultants, Ryan Smoller and Madeline Spencer, are in San Antonio as we speak right now for the International Downtown Association Annual Forum. And we send our team every year, if we can, twice a year, so they can get involved on what other downtowns are doing in the United States, in California, and around the world. Downtowns all over the world are facing the same thing that our downtown is facing, and so we need to gather and get what fits to our own specific downtown to bring it here and to do it and develop it. And you'll see in the slideshow what I mean by that. Thank you for having us, and we hope for your support.
My name is Jose Romo. Ryan Chase was not able to come to the meeting this evening. Also, like Ms. Sarayanes mentioned, Ryan Smoller, together with Madeline Spencer, who are the executive directors of the associations, are in San Antonio, Texas, so right now. Just want to add that everything that we do in downtown, it's a partnership. And basically, it's a three-way partnership. It is a partnership between Downtown Inc., Santa Business Council, and the City of Santa Ana. We have an amazing art walk, and it has been enhanced in the last few months. Years ago, we had activity in a couple of places in downtown, and now we have about 10 different places in downtown where activity takes place in art walk. Thousands of people come to downtown. Also, just a few weeks ago, we had our very successful Savor Santa Ana event. And again, it was thanks to the partnership that we have with Santa Business Council and the City of Santa Ana. Of course, we're also meeting constantly with the stakeholders in downtown. And as you might know, one of the big problems that we have right now is the homeless population in Santa Ana. We're in contact with the City of Santa Ana and working to find solutions to mitigate that problem. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, and let us know if you have any questions.
Do commissioners have any questions that they would like to ask? Commissioner Ursula?
Good evening. Thank you for your presentation. I have a few questions. I'm noticing the first question is, so you are presenting together. I noticed that there are separate budgets, there's separate information provided. Can you explain further then a little bit the...
Initially, when the bid was established, it really didn't say what organization was really going to lead the assessment, the administration. And we found that the two different associations that we have in the downtown are very different, very diverse, with very different consumer bases and target audiences. So by being able to split the funds equally, then we're able to reach both sectors of our community more effectively. So there are currently two organizations that do administer the bid for those purposes.
And there's no interest in joining or combining?
Because they work together in collaboration, we found that this has worked. So we haven't really discussed the option of combining the groups.
Great. And then I have curiosity on the Bridal Breakfast that I noticed here. Could you speak more to how that went?
Yes, we're very proud, finally. We were able to bring them together to the same table, have breakfast together for the first time ever, and guide them through trying to make them friends among each other instead of competition. So we've been guiding these meetings, and now they are doing them by themselves. They already have not a president per se, because it's not that formal, the organization, but they already have a lead person. They meet every week, and they are working on doing a bridal expo next year, which that's where we are going to jump in and help them. There's also other merchants, restaurants owners that want to help in when they are ready, but we want them to be ready for that. And so our doing in this is, bringing them together, really, providing the space where they can meet, where they can, tools that they can use. Many of them have the same providers when you come to dresses that are already pre-made. So we told them why, instead of being a competition, people shop around, and they come and they tell you, hey, next door they're giving me this dress for $600. Why don't you pick up the phone and ask the owner if that's true? We are here to make a living, and be fair with your prices, but be frank among each other. We're dealing with the same customers, and they have been also able to stay together and kind of alienate the two bridal shops that we have problems, the downtown has problems with, that they have not been they're not honest with the community in terms of providing services. We have had media showing up, and that is very damaging for the whole downtown. Everything is about perception, so people say 4th Street, as a whole. So we have been able to tell the reporters, please look at the way you're going to present the story and make sure that you point exactly at that person and, at that business itself, but not the rest. And so that's been also very positive. And if you have gone through 4th Street recently, you'll see their windows. They are dressed differently than they were before. Now they're training on how to present their windows. One of our bridal shops, it's already at the mall. So they have a lot of interaction between them, and that's something that we've been wanting that for years, and we are finally seeing it happening. So that's a big, how do you say it in English? That's a big yes for us. I mean, really, we're very proud of that. Yes.
Thank you. And I asked because definitely bridal shops have been iconic to our downtown and the Calle Cuatro, and also probably some of the businesses at risk as well. So I think that's helpful to know what kinds of supports or attention you're paying to the businesses that are at risk in the downtown.
We are also involving the photographers, the people that the caterers. Everything in that industry will, by being together, they have more business. Instead of diversifying outside, they get more business. And we're having, at every art walk, we're having photographers doing photos for folks for very $2 or something like that, but they get the lead. So they are being able to do business out of an art walk, which didn't happen before. But now they're participating and they're seeing the benefit.
And then my last question has to do with how much participation from the local community do you think come to the events that are being hosted? How much of it do you think is from outside? And are there any particular strategies to invite the surrounding neighborhoods to participate in the downtown?
As you know, the Art Walk, for instance, which is a big event the first Saturday of every month, we involve the schools, and we involve the theater, we involve the jazz bands, the mariachi bands, all of their arts department in different capacities. We want them to embrace the downtown. It is their downtown. By doing that, they bring their families. So over this year and last year, we've been seeing more families coming in. Now that we added Callejón del Beso, which is Alley of the Keys, we set ourselves to have, for instance, the vendors have to be crafts from South American countries, and nothing made in China, for instance. It has to be really crafty stuff that they sell and they're proud of. And we also have asked them to dress accordingly of the regions that they are selling the goods from. So that draws, more interest of wanting to know, where is this from? Where are you coming from? Where do they make this? That. Then also we added the Dancing on the Streets, which has been a program that we've been wanting for years. And when Downtown Inc. invited us to join the Art Walk, we immediately say yes. They say, do you think you can do something on the Spurgeon Paseo? We said yes, we know exactly what we want. And that's when we started the Dancing on the Street. And it's been phenomenal because it's an hour of class, and then the rest of the 2.5 hours to 3 hours they dance salsa, cha-cha-cha, and we're adding more and more. And it's drawing a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people. And you see couples, you see dads with little girls, you see older folks, you see younger, you see young girls, dressing up at the side, and thinking somebody's going to ask me to dance. So it is all this excitement, and it is for our community. It is. You just have to walk and see that it is for our community. Of course, we're open to everybody. Santana, it's the melting pot, of all nationalities, and we are very happy to see a Korean lady dancing salsa and embracing some of our, traditions and buying our purses from Guatemala, and that's awesome. I think that's when we all as a humanity come together.
Thank you, and I'll just close by mentioning that that those opportunities to serve the local community often has multiple benefits for a stronger local economy. So I'm glad to hear that you're saying that it is, our local Santana community that's getting out to the downtown.
Yes, it is.
Are there any additional? I think I saw Gary's hand up.
Go ahead, Gary.
Sorry, I didn't want to get skipped. Thank you, Chairwoman. Just real quick, I remember last year when I think both of you came and presented to us, I was here, and my only comment then was, it's amazing you do so much with so little. I wish we could say that for all aspects, but and it's nice to see that you're always thinking about new ideas and introducing new things to engage the community, as you expanded on tonight, so thank you. One thing I would say is, one thing about social media, they say that if you have 10,000 followers, you're doing really well. And for the fact that your group has 60,000 followers is a tribute to the work you're doing, so thank you. My only other question is probably for Sylvia, and that was on page 7778 on the budget. I asked this last year, and I know you answered, but I forgot. As far as the administrative cost, personnel cost, which is the largest part of the budget of both of these, that's a part of the person, isn't it? Is that
Yes,
city, or
that's
is that...
a portion of one of the staff that assists with putting all of these events together. So the board makes the decisions and holds the funding, but each of the organizations does have someone that assists with making sure that these programs go forward.
Right, and that billing goes through so that you keep track of it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Commissioner, or Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Commissioner Santana?
And it's funny because we're talking about the same thing, Gary, except I was looking at the board and I was trying to see what are the pre-qualifiers for being part of this board, and as far as, contractors and stuff like that, can you explain a little bit more about that? Like, do you have to have a business in the downtown? Can you just be anyone, or?
Actually, we are looking for board members. The requirements to be
What are you speaking about, for the Downtown Inc. or Santana Building Health?
Santana Business Council. Yes,
So
we're looking for
the
new board
downtown
members.
Do you have a speaker for the downtown?
Yes, I'll
Thank you.
be glad to speak on behalf of Downtown Inc. Just to and try to answer the question,
If you don't know the answer, it's fine. I just want to.
No, of course. Basically, in order for a person to qualify to be a board member, either the person has to either be a business owner or an employee of the business, as long as the business owner gives the okay for that person to be considered. Also, any resident in the downtown, in the bid area, qualifies to be a board member. During the last board meeting of Downtown Inc., which took place last month, the board expanded. And just to give you an idea, there were 6 new board members appointed to the board. 2 of them, one is an artist, Jean Jimenez, and the other person is the owner of El Indio restaurant located on 3rd Street, Oscar Olivares. Both were born and raised in Santa Ana. So definitely, the board likes to include people from different backgrounds, and basically to mirror the diverse community in Santa Ana.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's not on your brochure and your stuff, so it's good to see if we can update that. I mean,
Yes.
It's a pretty big board to begin with, and like I said, if personnel is your biggest overhead, I mean, I would like to know sort of like the breakdown, because look, you guys do great work and great production, but it is a big looming cost to handle personnel, and so just a little, it's a little red flag for me, but.
Of course, and we submit all the invoices and all the checks that we write for the series review on a monthly basis. On a few occasions, there are some questions that we have to answer regarding a particular invoice, but every single check that we have written is reviewed by the city.
Thank you. Are there any other commissioner comments or questions?
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead. Commissioner.
So it says here that you guys work with about 796 businesses. The other day I went to downtown area and I spoke to one of the owners there. And they said that business wasn't really good in that area and they had to relocate to Newport Beach. How are you guys feeling the climate in downtown area? Because, I mean, for me, you guys work there, know the business owners, and I love what you're doing. I think you're doing more than the city could possibly do for that downtown area. But I just really want to understand what is going on there. And I spoke to other businesses, and I mean, the parking lots were empty. There were people sleeping on the streets. I mean, there was a business closed, and then there was a homeless person sleeping there. And so I just wanted to get from you guys, what's the climate there? And I mean, definitely, I feel like you guys need more support because we can do so much better in downtown area.
I agree with you 100%. Yes, we can use any help that is possible and available for us, yes. The business climate, it's complicated. Not everybody makes it in the downtown. It's hard. It's hard to be a business owner, open the door in the morning and close at night, and you only hope is the person that comes in and brings you business. If not, if you go like that without no business, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, then you start really, really worrying because you're not going to make it at the end of the month. You know, rent or mortgages or employees and taxes, that keeps on. So unfortunately, not everybody makes it in the downtown. It is hard. That's why, I guess that's why, that motivates us to do more and be creative with such a little money. And we've learned that when it comes within the community, we do better. Because we all feel the same. We all relate to each other. We know what it is. We face the same problems. So by being together, we see on the face and we know what's going on. Nobody has to, nobody can tell us any different. We know what it is. So we just try our best. There's no answer. I couldn't tell you. There's no answer.
Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia?
I'm glad Commissioner kind of asked that question. Is there a specific area that you were visiting that particular day?
It was where they have the furniture store all the way to Caracas. So I saw...
So East End, French Street, where the barber shop is at?
4th Street.
Yeah, that's 4th Street.
There was a business the lights were off and somebody was just sleeping there randomly, and I was walking there at night and I'm like, what do they want me here? And then I talked to one of the business owners. I think they were a sushi bar or something. They're like, the owner wants to go to Newport Beach. They say business at night and it's good, and here look at it, it's empty. So
I guess it depends to what time of the day or day of the week and things like that.
Night, and then I felt like if you could fix the parking issue where it becomes free earlier, more people would be willing to, because I don't go. I know I have to pay parking and everything. I'd rather go someplace else where it's free and have a better environment. But I mean, there are so many ways to work, and I want you guys to feel able to reach out to me if any way I can help, start that discussion, because I feel like parking there after 6 when people get off work would definitely fill up those spaces. I mean, we want people to come. We want people that have a business here to really make revenue. So.
Yeah, thank you. And we definitely that's the goal. And one of the biggest challenges that we're facing in downtown Santana is the homeless population. People don't feel safe coming to downtown, and that definitely has impacted the growth in downtown Santana. That's why we are, dedicating so much time and effort to, meet with the city staff, county staff, and hopefully find solutions to solve, to mitigate that problem. But definitely, the people who come to downtown, the numbers have gone down in the last year or so. And yes, there are businesses in downtown that, shut down their doors. Just last week, you probably are aware, the big business located at the corner of 4th and Sycamore, Fallas Paredes, when just basically they put their big signs saying we're going out of business and liquidation sale. However, that didn't just happen. It didn't happen because they were doing bad in Santana. The entire company is going out of business. The parent company, which is Factory 2U, just filed for bankruptcy protection just a few weeks ago. But unfortunately, a large location, a large store is located in the heart of our downtown. So it definitely has a big impact. We are very concerned about this, and we're doing what we can to find ways to, number one, deal with the homeless population, and number two, improve business for everybody in downtown.
Hopefully I can get your business card. We also own a business there by 6th Street and Purview. So hopefully we can connect.
Sure, of course.
If I may say something else, I'd like to comment that in the downtown, it's been changing for the last 10 years, I would say. It's been changing because the clientele that we used to have back in the 70s and 80s, it was totally different what it is now. There's a lot of new people and a lot of new businesses that are coming to the downtown, and that business, it's attracting different clientele, and some of those clients are not for the business that have been in the downtown for 20, 30, 40 years. And the only way to attract those people, the businesses have to change the merchandise to attract those new customers. There is a lot of new customers in the downtown, but you have to have the product to sell them. And that's what a lot of businesses are not seeing that. For example, myself, I've been in the business in the downtown for 39 years, going 40, and I saw that the clients are changing. So what I did, I totally changed my inventory by just selling pretty much suits. And that has been very good for me. I'm getting the new customers. I mean, all the customers that are coming to the downtown. So, but it is very hard these days to do business in the downtown. It's changing. It's changing in a nice way, in a good way for the downtown, and that's where a lot of people are not making it. What we're doing is this. Taxing ourselves on the license, on the business license, to promote the downtown, to attract more customers, and with the help of the city and Downtown Inc. and Santana Business Council promoting the downtown, we are doing better. So, but we also have the problem of the homeless, which is affecting the downtown and the businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have some last questions as well, and they're for both Downtown Inc. and the Santana Business Council. So I've heard from both groups sharing that there are some concerns with the homeless population and the ways in which that's affecting downtown. And Jose Romo with Downtown Inc., you mentioned that you're working on finding solutions to mitigate the homelessness issues. So my question for both of you is, are you also working on finding solutions to mitigate the gentrification and displacement of Santana residents that live around downtown Santa Ana?
If I may say something. One thing that what you're asking, gentrification. The way I see it, it's not gentrification. It's time that is changing the customers in the downtown. We have the new we have the first and second generation in the downtown. And those are the people that we having coming to the downtown. It's not gentrification to me, because those customers come to me also, and they go all over the downtown. I guess it's just the way people see it. Gentrification, I don't think so.
So what about the displacement of Santana residents?
The displacement also is, I don't think it's displacement. I think it's, I go back to what I was saying before. People don't have, people that want to open up a business, you either have a lot of money to come to the downtown and do business, or you have little money, you're not going to make it. And now the rent in the downtown is not cheap. So if you cannot afford those rents, you're going to go out of business. You're not going to be able to pay the rent. Everything has gone up. People have to leave. And me as a property owner, I'm going to get a tenant that is going to pay me more, no less. Because then I'm going backwards.
So has the Santana Business Council, have you all conducted any impact reports or impact assessments on how the change in the type of businesses in the downtown, yes, or the businesses that you work with, has affected the local community? So thinking of the Lacey neighborhood, the neighborhood on the other side of West, East Side.
Well, we still keep our same residents that come into the downtown, and they are services for them all over the downtown, yes. And you asked before a question that I want.
Are there any reports or impact assessments that have been?
Yes, we conducted one, 3 years ago. 3 years ago, if you want a copy of it, you can have it, yes. Yes, oh yes, yeah. Yes, of course, yes. And we know that our major area, our major targeting area, it's no more than half a mile from the downtown, a mile at the most, and that's our core for our residents. Now, you asked a question before, what are we doing about our residents? I guess that's not in our power to say or do. We are bounded. There's a district, yeah, and we only can do things within that district. So I think the last if you go on East on 4th Street, I think the last business is Gonzalez Market, and that's about it. We cannot cross that line. So we don't know. To be honest with you, we care, and we work with Latino Health Access and building healthy communities in whatever capacity we can, and we're there to provide help if they need us to help them, yes. We support all of the other nonprofits like Centro Cultural de Mexico. We love the Noche de Altares. I think it's the best event of the year. And so we do help each other. But as far as what are you doing for that, I don't think it's in our capacity, at least.
Thank you. And now I have that same question for Downtown Inc.
Well, after being in business for such a long time, I learned something, that change is the only constant. And change happens everywhere, not only in downtown Santana, but throughout the U.S. And, you ask about gentrification, displacement of people. I believe you meant the business owners, the business community.
People in the surrounding neighborhoods, so Lacey, East Side.
Well, just like Ms. Sarayana said, we have, what we do, it's our mandate is to benefit the bid area. And of course, our goal is to provide a safe, clean, and beautiful environment for everybody to come and enjoy. That's either, residents from the Lacey neighborhood, or residents from other areas in Santa Ana, and of course we welcome everybody in the county and beyond. So we of course care about the residents in the entire city of Santa Ana, but our aim is to benefit the people who pay an extra tax into this bid. And we conduct meetings, we conduct mixers throughout the year, and we ask the question, what do you guys want? Okay, what should we do? How should we spend this, your money? And we get this feedback, and that's how we act.
Thank you. And then I have one more question. I think it would be for both of you. So is it Downtown Inc. or the Santa Ana Business Council that has been inviting a lot of the local art programs from the high schools to come and perform or play their music? Both. So I see in the Santa Ana Business Council's budget that there are $10,500 for marketing, promotions, and events. And under that is listed music and entertainment. So are these art programs receiving a part of those funds? Or are students performing for free?
I think the students perform for free. They come and they have a place to perform, and it has proven to be very beneficial for them. Performing in the street, it's difficult, and that has given them self-esteem, and they empower them. And as I said, to embrace the downtown, it is their downtown. And our feeling is that they are very happy to come, because we also have the Literature Festival that's annually now, which we got a grant for that. And by the way, talking about grants, we also work on grants. We not only rely on the licenses of the businesses. We apply for grants, we get them for different projects, and we spend the money accordingly. And your question, the students do not get paid, no.
Thank you. Downtown Inc., are you all paying students or?
We are not paying students, right? We are paying other individuals, but as of right now, we haven't paid students.
Thank you. So just as other individuals or performers are being paid or have been paid, I would also like to encourage both of you to start paying our students and the high school art programs. And I would like to encourage you to invest in youth and think of that as an investment in the youth and the city. Absolutely. And that's an item that was discussed at the recent meeting. And of course, the payment will be made to the school or the school district or the school program. Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it would be helpful to see that listed as a future line item so we can ensure that that becomes a standard practice.
For that matter, we have the Spirit Awards that we conduct once a year, and this year we're going to do it twice. And we give prizes. The first, this year is open for high schools. So we have 4 high schools that have enrolled. And the first prize is $1,000 for this dance school. And the second prize is $750. The third prize is $500. So that's a way of encouraging them to they have to perform as a flash mob in one of our art walks, but they also come and do their practices in the downtown. We're teaching them that the businesses are the ones that are doing this for them to benefit each other. And so they go to every business and they say, oh, I'm here in front of a barbershop. My brother comes here and, has an amazing haircut. Thank you, First American Barbershop, whatever the name is, for providing this Spirit Award for us. And so that way they also know where the money is from, where it's coming from, and we're trying to tie all the knots.
Thank you for that additional information.
And if I may add something, yes, the students haven't gotten paid, but I just want to give you an example of what we do for our students, for our community. Yeah, I'm sure you heard of the event Boca de Oro that has taken place in downtown Santana for the last 3 years. I forgot if it's March or April. It's during the spring. March, the first Saturday of in March. Basically, all the students in the Santana School District who are in either arts or music program come to downtown Santana that evening, and basically the art walk becomes their stage. Okay, I don't have the number of students that came in this past March, but there were 20 school buses going back and forth from different schools coming to downtown Santana to drop off kids and pick them up and take them back. And Downtown Inc., Santana Business Council pay for everything that was needed for that event. Okay, also we provided support, we provide assistance, of course, also with the partnership with the City of Santana. So yes, on that day, we didn't write checks to the children nor the schools. However, we spent a lot of money making that event very successful. And to this day, that has been the most successful art walk event in downtown Santana. And of course, it's on the calendar for next year, and I'll invite all of you to please come and just enjoy these wonderful kids from the Santana School District. Everybody comes. The event is organized by Robin McNair of the Santana School District. It is an amazing event.
Thank you for sharing that. I would just like to reiterate that it's very important that we financially invest in our youth and our programs. Are there any additional commissioner questions or comments? No? Great. Seeing as there are none, do we have a motion to approve item 7, Downtown Santa Ana Business Improvement District 2019 Assessment Report and Budget?
I so move.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Cano. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Sorry. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? So the matter is approved with a vote of 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now moving on to public comments. Does the public have any comments they wish to share with the commission? Please know that you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing as there are none, we'll move on to staff member comments. Does staff have any comments they wish to share with the commission?
Thank you, Chairwoman Ramos. We have a couple comments. I'll keep them really brief. First, I just want to say thank you so much for the deliberation regarding our CDBG application. If there's any commissioners who have additional ideas on how to improve the process for this year, please send them to us. It is a substantial amount of money, $872,000, and our nonprofits are struggling financially. Various nonprofits are struggling financially out there, so access to these limited funds is extremely important that the city makes available to our nonprofit community. And for that matter, there aren't very many other sources that I know of that directly fund our nonprofits besides this one. So really appreciate any additional insight and ideas that commissioners have to improve that process. I wanted to follow up on the Lead the Way training for all of our commissioners. I want to thank you very much for everybody for completing that training. We now have all of the certifications from everyone, and we are now fully in compliance when we have an on-site audit for our housing authority. And if you ever need any additional information or you're ever curious at all regarding our housing authority, just let me know. We have hundreds of pages of information that can explain things to you in substantial detail, and that is our largest grant. It's over $30 million out of all the funds we administer through our housing division, and so it is extremely important for our community and for our commission. I want to highlight the story of success we had for October, a really wonderful story about a previously homeless individual, Lydia Roberts, who was staying at the Catholic Worker Shelter, and then was referred by Mercy House to apply for Section 8. And then once she got on Section 8, she was introduced last year to our Housing Plus program through our outreach efforts. Hopefully her story will continue to inspire other families to join the program and follow in her footsteps from homelessness into our self-sufficiency program. We'll also be holding an upcoming graduation ceremony. I'm not sure last year if I had extended the invitation to our commissioners to attend that graduation ceremony. Do you guys remember that? I don't need it. Okay. So I apologize about that. It was the first one we had ever held, and we had held ever as staff members, and so we were getting our feet wet. But this year we are going to be holding another graduation ceremony. I will make sure that the commission is invited to that ceremony. It is a special opportunity to see graduates from our family self-sufficiency program receive their escrow check and their savings that they had earned, and celebrate together. And wanted to follow up on the City Council action items following our previous CRHC meeting, the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. When we brought it to City Council the first time, the item was tabled until continued to the next meeting with revisions that were requested by Mayor Pro Tem Martinez. We implemented revisions into that staff report, and on October 2nd, it was approved by City Council. The revisions were primarily to highlight and summarize the accomplishments that we had achieved during the previous fiscal year with our entitlement grant funds. And then lastly, two more items. The regards to hiring and recruitments. Last week we did extend a conditional offer of employment to a housing programs analyst candidate and a community development analyst candidate. Both candidates did accept the conditional offer, and they are undergoing their criminal and medical screening process. And we are looking forward to hopefully extending a final offer in the next couple weeks. And then lastly, we have a student commissioner who will be starting with us in the next couple weeks. We'll be holding an orientation for them prior to their next meeting. And then they'll be sworn in by council, hopefully on November 20th, before our next commission meeting. And with that, I have no further information to report.
Thank you. Do any other members of the staff have any comments they would like to share? Okay. Are there any commission member comments now? And commission members, please note that no member may speak more than once until all have had an opportunity to speak. Also, the commission may vote to limit our comments to 3 minutes each if we feel the need. Does anybody feel the need to do that? Commissioner Witt?
It's getting late. Real quick, I just want to say to the staff, and the commission will hear this, of course, but having sat on other commissions, I was always amazed, or perplexed, I should say, at how sometimes the environment seemed a little combative and sometimes hostile between staff and the commission. For whatever reasons. But I have to say, having sat here for 2 years on this commission, and I know it's got to be a revolving door sometimes to see all of us coming and going, and the way you treat each of us every meeting, and the new people coming in, and probably have to listen to some of the same questions over and over, is just really professional. I mean, to all of you, to everyone here tonight that's left, but the ones that weren't here or have left, just pass on our thanks, or my thanks, that it's a really warm and friendly environment. It's always felt that way, and I commend you. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Witt. Commissioner Frazier? I'm sorry, Commissioner Vasquez.
I agree with them. No comment on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Ursula.
Just thank you to the commissioners for tonight's meeting. I think it did go a little bit longer, but it felt like really good conversation and dialogue. And I want to also express gratitude to Judson and Claudia Shaw from the team. I was able to direct somebody who needed support to them, and they were very helpful as well.
Commissioner Santana?
No comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia?
Just wanted to thank everybody for a great meeting today. and to my fellow commissioners for always asking really good questions, and that's it.
Commissioner Frazier?
I'd just like to pair what was said by Commissioner Wood, that it's really nice that the staff does take that individualized approach, and even though we may ask some questions that they've probably heard thousands of times, it's nice to be treated like it's the first time they've ever been asked. So thank you very much for your hard work.
Thank you. Commissioner Cano?
Well, thank you for everything. Thank you for everybody's time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Everything I wanted to say has been said. Thank you all for being patient and being very involved until the last minute. With that, this meeting is adjourned. The next regular meeting is scheduled for November 28th, 2018, 4:30 p.m. at the council chamber.